Hello, welcome to CarCast. I'm Matt DeAndrea here with my friend Jhae Pfenning. He's the host and producer of the Hard Parking podcast with Jhae Pfenning. I've been on the show before, and it's a great show. It's a good lifestyle stuff. Get into some automotive stuff as well, and you guys should definitely check that out at hardparkingpod.com. CarCast brought to you by Bravago, best tasting hard seltzer in the universe. We're very excited. We just won another round of awards from RTD magazine. It's the Ready to Drink magazine, and they gave us awards for all three of our products again. And our vanilla orange cream won the gold. We won another round of awards as well, where that same flavor won best vanilla flavor overall for the year. So good, excited about that. Hopefully you guys try it out, see if you like it. It's at drinkbravago.com. We ship to 38 states. Jhae, how are you?
Man, I'm great. Thank you. It's exciting to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. The Bravago success is amazing. Everybody I share it with loves it. We're at that little shindig, during auction week, and I had asked everyone around me to try it. And as you saw, everyone loved it. So congratulations on that success. And, I'm going to continue to drink it because a lot of those seltzers, and this isn't an advertise, you guys don't pay me for any of this stuff, but
Yeah,
I buy it because I actually like it and I like to support things that friends are doing, but it's an amazing drink.
thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, the event you were talking about is the Radford Racing School in Arizona. It used to be the Bonneret School, and it was acquired some years back, and they've really been kind of pumping some money into it and turning it into a really, really cool event. And the owner of that school put on an event at his house. I guess sponsored by Alfa Romeo as well. And then we reached out and said, we love to have our drinks there at your bar, so we did, and appreciate everybody that came out to that and tried the drinks. But nice Pat he's got out there. The owner of Pat, he's got himself
Yeah.
a sweet house, and Alfa Romeo's parked in the yard, and Radford Racing cars parked in the front yard. Uh, it's a nice thing. So that kind of kicked off my Arizona auction week. I guess Wednesday night when I got out there. Um, yeah, it's cool. There's some cool stuff I want to get into. I want to get into some of these auction results as well.
Sure.
Previously on CarCast, we talked about a few of the cars that I thought were kind of interesting to look at, and we wanted to see if they sold, did they do well, and there's kind of overall how Barrett-Jackson went, and kind of the spectacle and the party that it is this year, especially. Everybody came out. And we'll get into that in a minute, but I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can show you guys some of this stuff. So
While you're pulling that up, I gotta
yeah,
say, the Stellantis Alpha Radford thing that we went to, I started sending my wife videos, and of course, there's a pro and a con to that. Number one, I show her that I'm not out there getting in trouble, but of course, the con is we should do that to our house too. So
yeah,
it's not
right,
really
yeah,
in
yeah.
our budget, but
You mean you should park 3 Alfa Romeos in your backyard?
exactly.
You should get sponsors. That's what she means. We should get sponsors for our house. We should get car sponsors and bar sponsors and sushi sponsors. I wish I could come in and have all that stuff. Yeah, but this house, actually, his house looked more like a museum than anything else. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and then with Chip Foose sitting there, whipped out his markers and drew a photo. I mean, just this amazing drawing, and then gave it away. And then my friend got the bleed through from the marker. You just can't make that stuff up.
Yeah, they actually, Ralph Gilles, the head of design for Stellantis, had a draw off in a little competition between Chip Foose and himself, and they both kind of went at it, and yeah, and gave stuff away. It was fun
Yeah, it was amazing.
to catch up with that. Chip Foose and I sat and had dinner at the table there, and got a chance to catch up for like an hour. And yeah, he's got a lot going on. His shop's always busy.
Amazing. Yep.
Checking out RM. This first car over here, this 427 Cobra. Interesting, because the 427 Cobras have always done very well. This one at $1.2 million. But the ones that have really been climbing are the 289 Cobras. And RM had this 289 Cobra, 1.215. The 289 Cobra did better than
Wow.
the 429 Cobra, which is really kind of interesting. Trying to move my screen around here a little bit. This is kind of interesting because the white 289 Cobra, I had connected Sammy Hagar with the guys at Superformance some years ago, and he was interested in having them build him uh, a Cobra. And he was like, I like the narrow body 289 style Cobras. And this is what he essentially built. Now he built the replica version of this white as well, the wire wheels, the
Sure.
whole thing. He may be selling it now. He's had it for a lot of years, and he's Sammy Hagar. He likes to change cars.
Well, this is an incredibly classy looking vehicle. This looks like something you would take up to maybe Pebble or something where, the traditional one is just to the wall,
Yeah, right. So the 427 version is kind of the bonkers version, and that's the one that
Right.
everyone kind of goes after. But don't underestimate the 289 Cobras.
Hmm.
Anyway, I had this page open as well because we've got the three Shelbys here. We've got the GT350H, the Hertz car, the GT350, and the GT500. Now, understandably, the GT350 and the GT500, uh, you see very similar looking cars, but there is a little bit of a price difference going almost $230,000 to $360,000 between the two. But the one that I brought up on a previous show was the GT350H at 170,000 at almost 171. This is actually on the higher end, but I just don't know why these Hertz cars didn't really move. It feels like they've been sitting at 100, 100 and a quarter for 15 years, and now maybe just creeping up a little bit. And we've always sort of talked about on the show about how the big brother drags up the little brother, right? You look at the Gullwing, and what it does is it brings up
Sure.
the 190 SL a little bit. The 190 was, I don't know, $30,000 car. Now it's, I don't know, a couple hundred grand or something like that. Um, and maybe that's what's going on here is uh these Shelbys would be bringing up the Hertz car. Honestly, if I was RM or if I was the consignor who owned that Hertz car, I would have really asked for, instead of lot 122, I would have wanted it to be 125 or 124 after these two cars. Because if you saw the GT350 go and then the GT500, I'd want my Hertz car to go, and probably would have dragged it up a little bit, because anyone bidding on these two cars that didn't get it would have been like, oh, here's another shot to maybe try to get the Hertz car. So I know they kind of went small, medium, and large, and as far as uh as the docket goes, but for the sake of the consigners, I would have went large, medium, small. I would have started with the big car because it's going to get money, and anybody who doesn't want it probably would have thrown a little extra for the other two cars. That's just my opinion. That's how I would have helped the consigners, but also make a little bit more money for RM.
And as just a regular car person, is that kind of one of those strategies, the placement of the lot?
Well, it is. So you do compete for lot space, especially at a big event and a no reserve auction like a
Sure.
Barrett-Jackson. You
Like
want
Barrett.
prime time spots. When you're consigning a car, part of what you're trying to do, if you have what they call the salon collection cars over at Barrett-Jackson, or here, if you have, this is all kind of premium cars, but yes, you scroll down to the end of this auction, and there was the Maybach and the Rolls Royce. These are $400,000 cars that are worth $180,000. And yes, they're at the tail end of the auction.
Jeez, look at
The,
that Series 1.
yeah, the Shelby Series 1 getting 112 grand. I like the car, but it wasn't really that successful. I think it's just because it's a GM parts bin car. Carbon fiber body, cool look, and just struggled to get past $100,000 for so long. It just wasn't quite there. But yeah, if you're at the end of the auction, you got a little bit of money in your pocket, and you want a good like road trip car, you grab that Maybach right there. Maybe you grab that Rolls-Royce Phantom. By the way, $200,000 for a Rolls-Royce Phantom. This car was what, 450, almost $500,000. This isn't the Ghost. This is the Phantom. This is the big boy. Uh,
That's the thing. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
nice one.
yeah. It's massive. It's nice.
I feel like I'd have
Anyway,
to hire someone to drive it while I sat in the back.
yeah. Although we road trip to Ghost to Monterey Car Week and back and spent the week with it, and
Nice.
just one of the nicest driving cars I've ever driven. Um,
So you got stuck driving it. Oh,
I
yeah, the
did.
XJ220.
I drove it. It was me and it was Adam Carolla and it was his son and Sonny and I don't know if somebody else was with us in the car at the time. Uh, yeah, but I pretty much do the drive the whole time there, and it's fun to do. I know
Sure.
you guys heard me talk about this a million times. The Jaguar XJ220, great supercar looks, really kind of held down by sort of a dated looking interior and the six-cylinder engine. Jay, I don't know how familiar you are with the XJ220, but to me, just an underrated supercar. It's got the look then, and as as kind of a 80s movie aficionado, I look at this car and I go, "Oh yeah, this is Charlie Sheen and the Wraith back in the day." Although that was a Chrysler, and I think
Sure.
he
Yeah.
brought that car onto Jay Leno's garage once. And the car that always bugged me about that car is the car in the Wraith. It had like this supercar look, but it was just lifted like a monster truck. I don't recall what chassis they put in it. It just bothered me so much that it was sat so high. Um, this is a car that I've been saying is going to be creeping up in value in years. And although I've been saying it for years, it hasn't really moved much. I don't know if I'm wrong or if I'm still waiting this out, but I think it's a cool piece. Uh, and
Less than 300, huh? Well, I think the
yeah,
funny thing about this car, I remember it well. I got all the Road and Track magazines, Exotic Cars Quarterly, DuPont Registries. And as a typical younger car person, I looked at it and I go, wow, that's a cool looking car, but those
so
wheels.
it's a
And
weird
I've
thing.
seen
It's
it with upgraded wheels and it looks completely
Yeah,
different.
it looks good, but now it's like, but the wheels are so bad, they're iconic to the car. If you
Sure.
change the wheels, I think it just looks like a kit car at that point, which is weird because I did this with my 95 Ford Lightning. The 95 Ford Lightning has those weird, sort of fan looking wheels, and they're not great. There's such better wheels out there. They're not that good. But it is the one thing that really makes the difference between an F-150 and the Lightning, right? You can see that thing from 100 feet away and go, I know it's a Lightning because of the wheels. Like nobody ever gets Lightning wheels and puts them on an F-150 because they're ugly. So when I was
But
bringing mine
your
to the
custom
SEMA
wheels,
show, what's that?
your custom wheels.
Yes. So when I was bringing mine to the
Yes.
SEMA show, we were doing a big brake package on it. So Brad Fanshaw at Bond Speed Wheels made me a custom one-off billet set. We scanned the original wheels. We did sort of a three-dimensional billet version of it, a two-piece, and we made them directional. So the fans or the correct rotation right and left. They're 18-inch and they're slightly staggered. They're 18.9s in the front, 18.10s in the back with a little bit of dish on it. And yeah, when I put it at the SEMA show, it was in the Magnaflow booth outside by the Ford out front area. And the guy at Magnaflow, who's with the trailer and the other cars, he's there the whole time and he kind of just looks at the cars. And he goes, all day people were coming up and going, oh, it's a Lightning, it's a Lightning. And then when they see the wheels, are like, what's going on here? And he's like, yeah, those are billet set of wheels. And it's like, I just made them look like the stock wheel, but a billet set. I just kind of made them a little bit better instead of the cast set. So I kind of feel like the wheels on this car now, you kind of would have to keep them. By the way, they're a cool center
I
lock
agree.
wheel.
Yeah,
It's,
I agree.
it's interesting. There's no dish in the wheel, but in the back, the center lock has all the dish. Anyway, I just think it's a cool piece, a cool car. Probably rides like shit and you can't see out of it, but it's still cool to put in the
I
in
know
the
that
collection.
windshield to be expensive to replace. Yeah, one of my recent trips to Michigan, I rode in a Vector
Yeah, how's that?
W8, which is one of my dream cars. And of course, it's never meet your heroes, right? I would still love to have one day, but man, that car is a wreck. But the owner did the same thing with the wheels. Basically, you did is he had paid someone to reproduce the factory wheels in larger, more modern sizes for just a better visual fitment, and it looks great. So,
Yeah.
good job on your Lightning.
And I'm down with that. You know, we even on other cars, like I get it. You've got the original wheels, you want to keep them, but if you want to do something a little different, just as you drive around, um, Adam Carolla's Porsche 935, you can't get the right size tires for that for racing, so everybody just uses a BBS wheel for it. Um, Speaking of Adam, this is a car that we had our eye on. We just kind of want to see the values of these things. We always been a fan of these. This is the Lamborghini GT350, or sorry, the 350 GT. I was thinking back to Shelby for a second. This one of
It's
our
funny.
favorite color combos out there. This is the Blue Note with tobacco interior. This one I saw in person up there. And another thing that you know you love about this car is it's got a wire wheel on it, but it's got a wire wheel with some dish in it, and it changes it completely. You look at the stance of that car, and the wire wheel with the dish really kind of makes this car. This one was great. I'm glad to see this car go for $632,000. Uh, that's a good number for this car. Um, I think it's going to also affect the 400 GTs because it's the similar car that's after this. So cool. Very happy to see that car
And
go.
for the people listening to this, you need to look this vehicle up. This Lamborghini 350 GT. This is a 1965. I've never seen anything like this before. And if I saw it on the street, I would never guess that it was a Lamborghini. And it's different looking. It's pretty cool.
It's the first Lamborghini. This is the first
Oh,
model
I
of car
see.
that he did.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, as a reminder, we're starting to put these podcasts up on YouTube. So if you go to the CarCast YouTube channel, you'll see us, you'll hear us, and then as I'm scrolling around here, you'll be able to see that as well. If everything gets recorded the way it's supposed to be recording. Um, we talked about the Cobra, and this is another car I wanted to see. I don't know if Jay, if you had a chance to meet Rod Emery at Emery Motorsports.
I have not.
You have not. So, Rod is the nicest guy, and he's been doing this. He's been at this game for a long time, and he's doing sort of what Singer is doing. And I hate comparing everybody to Singer. I think it's unfair to Singer because they sort of created a category. But
Sure.
you do look at what Jonathan Ward is doing at Icon and what Singer is doing, and what Velocity, I guess, is doing with Broncos and a number of companies. And then how do you make them stand out? A Singer stands out, and an Icon stands out, and
Mm.
they do pull money at auctions. Rod has been building some pretty amazing cars for a long time, and he's been doing these Porsche 356, these bathtub cars, um, the speedsters and the coupes. And the outlaw version of this car, because he does a restoration as well. The outlaw version is his hot rodded version of the car. And to see this car pop up at RM, whoever he sold it to, it's a client car. He's not selling it direct, to my understanding. To see this car pop up, have a really good estimate on it, and then just crush it. I mean, $747,500. And I think the estimate
Wow.
was something like 6 to 8, whereas a lot of the cars come in on the low end of the estimates or just barely fall in with the fee. And this crushed it. Now, keep in mind, this is not a lot of car. It's a small car. It's like Adam and his Datsun 510s or his BRE
Sure.
Roadster.
These are tiny.
Yeah, it's a
Hmm.
2.6 liter four cylinder. He's getting 260 horsepower out of it. But I don't know, probably weighs 2,000 pounds, maybe even less than that. And it's just an incredible piece. I'm so glad to see Emery Motorsports get the recognition that I think it deserves. If you get a chance to see one of these cars in person or even visit Emery's shop, um, you should do that. The McLaren Speedtail,
Wow. Look
two
at this
million
thing.
bucks, just over $2 million. The reason why I like the Speedtail is because the McLaren F1 was so wildly successful, and I think Leno was in a video recently. I don't even know if it was his video. I forgot who it was, but they took two guys for a ride in his McLaren F1, and they basically pointed out, they're like, you bought this car new for $800,000 and it's worth $20 million. And you know, or more than that. And he's like, you've made almost $1 million a year on your car, which is a crazy thing. And it's probably not quite that much, but it's a lot. It's a lot of money that he's made on that car by just having it. The McLaren Speedtail is a really cool piece, and it is a 3-seater. It's a center drive 3-seater like the McLaren F1. Now, it's not technically street legal in the US. It's the, you know, the show and display car. Uh,
Yeah, that
but
definitely doesn't look street legal.
yeah, but it's just it's a
Looks
cool
fantastic.
it's a
It's
cool
beautiful.
piece. I mean, I don't know how to make it street legal. I don't know what they did to not make it street. I mean, there's no mirrors on it. There's probably no turn signals, and you know, if it's got brake lights and headlights and you can somehow get a license plate on the back, I'm sure somebody's
And-
put it on the street, somebody like with a dealer plate, just said, "Hey, I'm moving it around from here to there." And
yeah,
it's
no one's trying to crash that to make it street legal.
yeah, no one's doing that. But it's interesting is I think it is street legal in other countries, just not street legal here. I think in England it is street legal, and I don't know what they've done to it on a US version versus that, besides things like side markers and and mirrors and stuff. I think it uses cameras, and here we don't allow cameras in place of side mirrors, which I'm not quite sure why. It seems like it if it
Everyone else is
works.
doing it. How would you describe this color? And this is a 2020 McLaren Speedtail.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of like light blue metallic, and a lot of metallic in it. Uh, when you see the car in person, in the shaded areas, it has a dark blue hue to it, and then when lights on it, it really kind of pops. But the Speedtail is meant to be a top speed car, so when you look at the back of this car, it that's where the name comes from. It's got this long swoopy tail to it, uh, like some land speed cars and stuff that you might see. Just has a lot of
Right.
length to it. It's just all about managing that airflow over the top and how to keep it stable in a high speed run. But anyway, cool car. Just a cool piece.
2 million.
2 million, 2 million, 12,500. Um, and then this
Wow, look at
Audi,
this.
this 84 Audi Sport Quattro. Um, uh, when I was talking with Adam Carolla, this is another car that caught our attention because 80s cars are really starting to move. Of course, we're seeing things like Mustang Cobra R models and Grand National GNX, and even Vipers are creeping up, although that's more 90s. This car, we've seen the 80s racing cars really start to move and the rally cars start to move, but this is a street car. It's somewhat limited production, but this is just a really cool example of an Audi Quattro street car. $665,000 this goes for. They made 214 of these, which is limited, but not that limited. I think that Ferrari 350 GT, I don't know, it's like 112 or something of those. Um, the Mustang Cobra, the 93 R model, 107 of those made. And these days, when a manufacturer wants to do a limited edition run of something uh like Bugatti or Aston Martin and some of these companies that do a limited run, like they're doing 12, you know, or 20 or
Sure.
25. They're not doing a couple hundred. So um this is a cool piece. It's good to see. This is good for 80s collectible cars. Uh, this one
So
has
it's
5,472 miles on it. So it's not like this car took off because it was on Bring a Trailer and had 9 miles, and it's an Acura Integra Type R with 9 miles on it that's been sitting in the garage for a
easy
couple of
there.
decades, right?
Everything rotting away, but you know.
Right. Anyway, it's a cool piece.
So this one, it says it's one of the few that is believed to be delivered to Japan. White on white. Gotta love the white cars with white wheels. And
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, as cool of a picture as this is, and or as cool of a car as that is, the overall composition of this photo that you guys can't see is what I can't keep my eyes off of. It's in a
Yeah.
perfectly white garage with a white door and white walls and white ceiling, and it looks very sterile. Looks like something from a movie.
Somebody figured it out, right? Somebody
Someone's trying to sell a toolbox.
right, but somebody figured out how to make this photo work. Like they
Yeah,
were getting it all set up.
it's
Anyway,
perfect.
I'm gonna close a few of these. windows so I don't get too lost here. But uh, Barrett-Jackson. Moving on to Barrett-Jackson. A few of the cars that stood out to me. Um, I think th these cars I just got to point out. These sort of Eleanor recreation cars. Now, this one I believe is the Shelby licensed uh, uh I forgot the name of the company. I don't know why I just blanked on the name of the
Is this
company.
the full carbon fiber recreation?
Yeah, I don't think it's the full carbon fiber body, but it's the same company that was doing it. Now we've seen these. I'm sorry, Classic Recreations is the company. They don't do a full like Eleanor knockoff, but it's a similar type of car. They don't do the hood, which is cool because I don't
Hmm.
really like the hood, and they do fewer lights in the front because it just looked like a weird bug with too many lights in the front. This is a Coyote engine with a supercharger on it, which is a great combination. But you do start to see you go to Barrett-Jackson, you'll see anywhere between 5 and 10 Eleanor cars pop up there. And once the estate from the original movie Gone in 60 Seconds, they lost their lawsuit on they were charging licensing fees for every one of those Eleanor recreations. And they lost in court the trademark. They were saying, well, the Eleanor car is our car. You got to pay us money, which is crazy because the first movie didn't use the car that everybody keeps recreating, right? That was the Bruckheimer film
Right.
with Nick Cage. And
Yep.
so they lost in court and
As they should have.
they were charging $30,000 per car for a licensing fee. So if you paid the
No.
license, I guess there's still some cachet and say it was officially licensed during the time when a license, I guess, was required. But now that it's not required, anybody can make these. Any shop can make these for you. But you do start to see a difference between the quality of the car. You'll see Eleanor's go up there for 120 grand, and they've just got an iron block 302 that costs $5,000. And then you'll see some in there with a modern day Shelby GT500 engine that's a $35,000 engine with electronics, and those cars are getting 250,000. This car, did well.
Yeah, at 517,000. So
Yeah,
half a
that's
million
big money.
dollars.
Big
Yeah.
money for that car for sure. Um,
Well, this was your favorite one, wasn't it?
this one was just bonkers as far as the auction. We're looking at the Mercedes SL Gullwing, the 56 Mercedes
This was the
SL
weekend
Gullwing.
high, I believe.
Uh, yes, but at RM they had one that went for $1.7 million. Now this one has a little bit more of a history to it, and I believe this is an alloy body car. We'd have to scroll through all the specs to make sure, but it is interesting. It's a special car, and alloy cars have really kind of made the difference. But oh my gosh, $3.41 million for a Gullwing. And a few years ago, these were 1.2 million. They've crept up a little bit to about 1.7 million, as we saw over at RM. Um, but they still made a handful of these cars, and it seems like any notable auction around the country has at least one of these, if not one of these and a Roadster. So they're not impossible to get. It's just one of those cars that it's beautiful, it's a great collectible, but if you wanted one, you could probably make a couple of calls and get one, almost
Right.
immediately.
It's a nice car, right? But is it twice as nice as the 1.7, you know?
I see. That's the thing is, I don't think it is,
Mhm.
man. The room. This is the thing. It's like Barrett-Jackson, the spectacle that it is. There's some cars that are a good deal, and then just sometimes the room gets so exciting, and something like this happens. Now, there's got to be two people in the room bidding on this. So two people thought, $3 million was still worth it for this car. Um, and it's going to be tough for them to make it back. They'll probably will, but it's going to be a little while. You think of the 10 years or so it's taken to get these cars from about 1 million to 1.7 million. Other than this car, by the way, the Hammer price is 3.1 million. You add the fee and something, or it's 3.1
Sure.
million and change. So you add the fee. So the 3.4 million is with the fee. Uh,
But I gotta tell you, Barrett-Jackson week is the only week out of the year that I'm glad I don't have adult money.
Seriously. Um,
I'd be buying a lot of stuff.
this is a car you have to be familiar with.
Absolutely.
I love the LFA, the Lexus LFA. Now, Lexus LFAs are going for about $750,000. The Nürburgring edition cars are going for almost $1 million more. This one went for 1.650. Uh, cool car. I don't think there's a massive difference between the LFA and the Nürburgring edition, other than its limited availability and some of its,
And a
like the
million
plaques on
dollars.
the engine and stuff, and the $1 million.
Yep. $1 million on auction week. It's a big difference.
Listen, if you're collecting an LFA, this is the car you want. If you're driving an LFA, save the $1 million, get the regular one, because you're just going to
Sure.
drive off the value a little bit. There's only a handful of people that get to drive their cars on a regular basis and still retain the value. Guys like Leno, he gets to drive them and restore them back, and because he's Leno, he gets to keep all the
Right.
value in it. But good for him. He deserves it.
It's the Leno value. Yep.
You
Owned by
know,
Jay Leno, driven by Jay Leno.
I've
It's worth
driven
money.
I've driven 3 LFAs in my life.
I've seen 3 LFAs.
I've driven 3, and I got to do a track day up at Willow Springs in an LFA. 2 LFAs.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. I have a good
Uh,
buddy with one, but I haven't driven it. I've only seen it. He daily drives his Zanardi NSX. Got a couple 100,000 miles on it. It's curb rash. So
yeah, that's a cool car. Uh, let me hit a few of these. I just want to get into these auction cars, and I want to talk about some of your stuff real quick. Um, This is a Shelby recreation. Now, this was a charity car. The kids at the school that the Shelby organization donates to built the car, and they sold it at Barrett-Jackson as a charity car in an effort to raise money for their school. Now, this went for $100,000. I think that's kind of on the low end. Now, Barrett-Jackson doesn't take a fee or anything on the charity cars. Just goes directly to them. You write the check directly to the charity. It doesn't go through Barrett-Jackson. They're just there to help facilitate the sale. It's a cool piece. I would have liked to have seen 150,000 for this car, but also
seems a little low.
the Mustang Dark Horse VIN number 1. I think that one for 375 for JDRF, that organization. In the past, those types of cars would usually pull about $500,000. Now, I think the timing was a little off on that car because Barrett-Jackson does a good job of getting VIN number 1 on many cars, Corvettes, Mustangs, Toyota Supra when that came out. And when you bid on the car, they often rolled out the prototype car. And then when you get VIN 1, you get to tour the factory, go visit them, build your car, pick your colors, pick your paint, pick everything, and get the whole like VIP experience. Now, because the timing of this auction and when the Mustang came out, you didn't get to do that on the Dark Horse VIN number 1. It was already built. And the car they rolled up there was the car you get. So I think taking away the experience is what probably knocked that thing down to about 375 from probably what would have been $500,000. But anyway, this is still a cool car. I liked it. This last piece, I don't even know how to explain it. Hopefully you're watching this on YouTube, or if you go check it out on YouTube. But there was a 2009 Humvee that was wildly modified, and they turned it into a 6x6. And this thing was going nuts in the
This thing
room.
broke the internet.
And it did. And it sold for $825,000. It's got a Hellcat engine in it. I was up there with a whole crew of people watching this thing, and we're like, it's cool, but we were just like, but what do you do with it? It's not a movie car. It doesn't go into like the Hollywood exhibit at the Peterson Museum. It's just this
Yep.
wacky piece that I don't know what you do with. Like, once you get it, like, I I just don't fully understand. But to at least 2 people in the room, they understood it far better than I did because they bid this thing up and someone paid $825,000 for it. So I don't know. Good on
And
them, I guess.
it's very people either love it or they hate it, apparently, kind of reading along online.
Yeah.
It's very unique, like you were saying. I mean, Gas Monkey Garage was Rollins, and
I don't know
exactly. It's
his
like, what do you
involvement with it. I don't know if he owned it and he was selling it and he bought it from somebody initially, but he
something
didn't
like
build
that.
it.
Yeah.
There was other builders listed. He was up on
Yeah.
stage. So I don't know. Maybe he saw it from somebody and he bought it and he was selling it to make a profit, in which case he did very well because there's no way he paid anywhere near this initially.
Sure. And it's the same. What do you do with it? You roll it up and down the strip. You can't go, everyone's standing in line for the clubs and the restaurants gets to see it, but eventually they go inside and they're eating and drinking and you're still rolling up and
I
down
don't know.
on the strip because you
You
can't do anything with it.
you take it to a Cars and Coffee or something. You just roll it out on the weekend,
Yeah.
and I mean, I guess it's street legal.
It's an awesome vehicle. It's just, what do you do with it?
Yeah. What do you do with it? Anyway, um,
Ah, here we go.
Donald
This-
Trump's Lamborghini Diablo. This is another car that did very well. Um, and it just goes to show you the story is what adds so much value to the cars. This is not Donald Trump selling his Diablo. There's been two owners since Trump, I believe. Whoever bought this for $1.1 million, by the way, is I guess the fourth owner. But just reading the room at Barrett-Jackson, by the way, when they rolled this thing out on stage, the room got loud. People were cheering for this thing. And then as the
Everybody
auction
stood up.
went, yeah,
Yeah,
as the
everybody
auction
stood up, took
went,
their phones out. Man, this is crazy.
this is pulling big money for a Diablo. Now, this was ordered new by Donald Trump. He picked the color combinations and he drove it for a little while, and it's got a few miles on it. Uh, and it hammered out $1 million, sold for 1.1 million. This really got the room excited. So it's just kind of interesting piece. There you go, a little bit of piece of history. Does it say how many miles are on it? I don't remember how many miles on it. 15,000 miles. And I don't know how much
Wow.
Trump
Yeah.
put on versus how much the other owners put on it.
There's a lot of miles period on a Diablo.
Yeah. And then I just brought this one up. This is a 57 Continental. This is a full custom car, but we talked about on podcasts in the past that if you have a nice custom and a good builder and they really bring their A game, customs are bringing money. This car was $715,000. Whoever
Wow.
commissioned this car to be built probably didn't spend $715,000 getting it built. So to see a custom go for as much or more than what it was built for is a, a complete shift in the way these cars were going. I mean, it's crazy to see. Like we'd see a $500,000 Ring Brothers car pull, I don't know, $350,000, and everybody's happy with that number because you've never seen that kind of number before. We saw a C10 pickup truck go up there, really, really nice done, but $330,000 for a C10 pickup truck. Just kind of a crazy things happening there over at Barrett-Jackson. Blazers and C10 trucks. It doesn't matter if it's slammed or if it's lifted. They are just pulling money. Broncos still continue to do well, but the Blazer and the C10 truck is the new Ford Bronco. And
Yeah,
Broncos,
it seemed like it was the weekend or the auction for that. You go out
yeah,
there and go underneath the tents, and every single one of them, one went for 197 and 330. I think one rolled across, what was it, Friday or Saturday? A black one. It went for like 400 and something.
yeah, pulling crazy money. And the thing about Broncos, it's similar to those Eleanor cars. If you're doing a Bronco on a stock chassis with an iron block pushrod motor like a 351 or 302 base, it's $130,000 truck, $140,000 truck. If you're doing a Coyote swap and if you're doing an Art Morrison chassis, a Roadster Shop chassis, something like that, it's 180 to to 250 depending on how nice it is. So and people are recognizing that at the auction with the descriptions online and people getting there and be able to get there early enough in the week and really kind of see these cars and crawl under these cars and get your photos. people are paying for quality work because I have no idea if there was 20 Broncos or 50 Broncos, but there was 2,000 cars at Barrett-Jackson, and there could have
Right.
been 30 or 40 Broncos go for the 9 days they were out there. It wouldn't surprise me if there were 30 or 40 Broncos up there, and I'm sure I could just go to the website and click and see. But um, you've got to pick the right stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
walking around and looking,
yeah,
and I missed probably three of the tents, honestly. So I say this before all that. Didn't see a lot of power wagons. Usually it's like 15, 20, 30 power wagons, it seems.
yeah, maybe not as many as before. And
Right.
there's some good companies now that are getting into those more. They're figuring out how to make them into a cool kind of resto mod. The engine swap is the easy part, but how do you get it to stop and drive and have decent power steering? And that's the things that they're figuring out. And just doing it on the stock components is not really quite there yet. So there's a few companies that are just starting to figure it out. Uh, but that being said, how was your Barrett-Jackson? What was going on? Some highlights there for you?
I mean, did the Future Collector Car Show again with Bogey.
That's right. You
Congrats again to
hosted
her.
that.
Yeah, congrats to her and their awesome car with the Barrett-Jackson Cup. They won People's Choice. That was an amazing car. But when I did the Future Collector Car Show as a host, you don't really get much time to really look at anything. I think I
Yeah.
probably missed 60% of the cars that were just at that specific show. And then, of course, having a busy week, I wasn't able to get back to Barrett until Friday when we kind of came in at the same time, which was pretty cool because you had mentioned that I might want to stick around because you never know. And of course, that never know was Sammy Hagar, which was, we haven't talked about that yet, but that was like getting a free concert. And I don't know if there's any other time in my life where something
Yeah.
like that would have just happened. And so I probably would have left an hour or two before that, but I'm like, no, you told me, and I'm going to stick around.
Yeah, there was a sort of an impromptu performance. So Sammy Hagar had his LaFerrari consigned there, and when Craig Jackson went out to California and filmed the video with him, the car was fine. And then when they brought it to Arizona, they did a few driving. They went to a few places to show the car to promote it, and there was an issue with the hybrid battery system, and spoke with Ferrari, and it was sort of at the extend the the end of its 8-year life cycle, and they decided to pull it from the auction. They're going to work on it, swap the battery. I know Sammy wants that car to be 100% perfect, so he's going to work with Ferrari and get in it tip top shape, and it's going to go
Of course.
to the new Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale October auction. There's going to be a smaller auction in October. Smaller meaning not 9 days; it's like 3 days. But he was scheduled to come
Yeah.
out and he wanted to promote the car. And they had already had this cover band called Red Voodoo that plays a lot of Sammy songs and Van Halen songs. And yes, we knew a little bit ahead of time that Sammy was on his way in and he was gonna pop in and do a few songs with them. And he probably played like 45 minutes.
Sure.
He
Yeah.
must have done a,
And
a pretty good set. So he went out there with Michael Anthony at Barrett-Jackson and played a bunch of good songs. It was fun.
that Red Voodoo who opened for them was pretty exciting too. They had a lot of energy. But I hope that people that were just kind of there and didn't realize, obviously with the surprise of Sammy Hagar,
Yeah.
really understood and appreciated exactly what was going on because, like I said, that's not really probably ever going to happen anywhere again. And then of course the rest of the time, I spend most of my time at Barrett Jackson hanging out and talking to people.
Yeah.
And right, so I probably missed 40% of the cars this year that were there. So I always kind of kick myself. I feel like you have to go earlier in the week and just kind of walk it by yourself or walk it
Yeah,
with
you
one other
do.
person because once party time comes on or Super Saturday, it's just so much going on. You really have time to kind of sit down and look at cars.
Yeah, you have to kind of do a lap on a Tuesday or Wednesday and definitely
Hmm.
see all the cars. Now, unfortunately, Tuesday and Wednesday, I think it was raining a bit, so it was a little bit tougher
Yeah.
to see all the cars outside. Thursday is not a bad day to do it if you can hit it Thursday morning. But yeah, we had so much going on and we just got sucked into different meetings and stuff. I went out there to do meetings and stuff as well. So by the time I got to some of the Barrett-Jackson events in the afternoon, it was a big social gathering. But Friday when Sammy came out, he played a song, and then Saturday he came back and just sat with us. We all hung out for a couple hours and watched the auction. We had a good conversation about the alcohol business, being
Sure.
somebody who owns a brand and doesn't make any money versus a guy who owns several brands and makes all the money. And I was like,
You'll get there.
how do we become you when we grow up? And he was like, good luck. It's the hardest thing ever. Alcohol, there's so many goddamn rules and everything. It's just a big pain in the butt to get any headway in that. My computer just keeps making noise with emails. Hopefully
I
you
could
guys
only
can't hear
I can only buy so much Bravago. I was listening to I think it was your most recent episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago. Well, it was 2 episodes ago, because when you guys had Craig Jackson on,
Yeah.
and he was talking about kind of where the auction came from, and even some of his skill sets, which I had no idea. But he's right. I think of the auction as almost like going to Six Flags with no roller coasters. That's pretty much all it's missing, right? Because you have the food, you have kind of I really wouldn't call it a trade show, but down the main tent, you have
They
all
have a
sorts
big
of
vendor
things that,
section, and yeah, you
yeah,
go outside. There's ride-alongs. Those are the rides, right? Instead of a
yep.
roller coaster, you can jump into a Mustang or a Challenger or something. And yeah, you can grab a giant turkey leg and a funnel cake while you're out there if you'd like, or you can just walk over to the Blueprint Engines booth or the Superformance booth and see a bunch of their cars. But um, y-
Well, I
yeah,
mean, there's all
it's a
sorts of
state
stuff.
fair with a car auction in the
It
middle.
is. And all this, there's no animals to pet, so there's no petting zoo, right? And there's
No.
no roller coaster. But even going in the main entrance, for people who have never been to a show like this, it's not just all, resto mods and classics. The whole front area is all brand new cars and prototypes and things that are coming out in the regular market.
Yeah.
And that in itself is something you wouldn't expect if you've never been to it.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good event. I'm glad you were there. I'm glad to catch up with you while we were out there. And you guys all did such a great job on the Future Collecting Cars that event. How's the NSX world treating you? For you guys that don't
Oh,
know, Jay
the NSX world is
is a
crazy
super
as ever.
freak. Is NSX super
Yeah.
freak?
Yeah, the NSX world is crazy as ever. I think I got my car situated exactly where I want it. Got a little bit of suspension, got some new wheels, some new tires set up,
Yeah.
got a little, some go fast parts put on there. And, I'm so busy trying to do the NSX Club of America thing. It's a 3-year term and there's a lot of work to do. So that's one of the cajillion things that I try to stay busy with throughout the week.
You your previous gen NSX kind of took off, kind of got pretty famous as that car. Now that one eventually you sold and you bought the new one, which I love. The new one is cool. Uh, what happened with the first gen one? Like that, how did that sort of take off? How did you become this NSX guy?
So I've been a super fan for years.
Yeah,
And, once I got the car, it was time. I mean, 20 years. 20 years is a long time to dream about having or owning a specific car. And then when you get it, sometimes we age out of those type of desires. Everybody had a slant nose Porsche on their wall,
yeah,
or a
right.
Lamborghini, but I don't have one. And given the money, you learn that some of those cars are great to look at, but not very fun to drive all over the place. So getting the NSX and kind of keeping it normal for years was great. Moving from Michigan to Arizona, you realize on these long, beautiful roads just how dated and slow your car is. And it's not always about speed. It really isn't, but it's about the experience. But you started getting kind of into the car show scene
Yeah,
and kind of modifying your car and start competing and doing things. And, so you're pretty much referencing the wrap that I had on there. Once I decided to, because I'm kind of a designer by trade, nowhere near Ralph and Chip Foose and those guys who kept doing it and have just done amazing things. But I used to look at cars that were wrapped, the spaceship wraps or the fighter jet wraps, and I would look at the details in the wraps and I'd look at them closely and I'd go, it's a lot of pixelation there, or, you know, there's only one type of screw on here, or fixture. And the reality is on aircrafts, there's so many different types of hardware. I could do better. I could do better.
yeah.
And so one day I just challenged myself to design a wrap and learn Photoshop and, do everything that I said that I thought I could do better on. And what it ended up being was a kind of a dedicated rap to a cartoon I used to watch when I was a little kid, and it just kind of took off. And as you've seen, and some people that know who I am have seen, there's miniatures that were made on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
I'll get in front of it. I didn't commission any of those. Those are just companies that decided to make money off of the things that I worked on.
Yeah.
But I did
It's
reach
weird because
out
it's
and
like
was
it's a
able
little
to.
flattering, but also, you could have
Sure,
asked.
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I was able to reach out and kind of broker somewhat of a relationship, not necessarily a financial one, but it's like, if you're going to make my car, can you at least put my name on it? You know? And so we agreed on that. And I got a few cars and a few at cost, and, have a few pins out there. And that thing just kind of took off. But, that's what we do as car people. Some of us are driven by different things than others. It would have been nice to be on the cover of a magazine, but I got in a magazine, which is great. But eventually, the guy that's sitting in front of you, Jhae Pfenning, it needed to be more about the car, or less about the car, more about me. So that transition just kind of happened, because at the end of the day, cars come and go, projects come and go, but you're still the person. And we have to market ourselves and just be good people and have good relationships. And that's why
Yeah.
I'm right here on your show right now, is because treat people like they want to be treated and how you want to be treated, and you never know what could happen. So that's the old NSX, in a nutshell. After 9 years of ownership, it was just time to kind of progress and get something else.
Yeah.
We spend, so many of us, especially, we spend so much time trying to modify and modernize our cars. At some point, if you don't have a garage full of cars, then you get something modern that kind of moves you. And so, the NSX Type S kind of fit that for me. I love the 2017s, the 2021s as well, but it took the Type S for me to sell my old car. And a lot of people don't realize this. Sure, I had the allocation assigned to me.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I could even afford the car until the car got delivered and I started running financing. So I was without a car for about 9 months. And if it didn't work out, then it wouldn't have worked out. I'd be driving in, I don't know, an old Alpha or something else, an Aston Martin. There's a ton of cars that I would love to have. And
Yeah.
so, the NSX wasn't the only stop shop. So I might be done with forever cars. I don't know. But that's kind of where I kind of landed where I am right now.
So you must have thought about doing a similar type of wrap or a theme for the new Type S, because now it has more of a jet fighter look than even the other one did. Although it's been done, so maybe something else.
You never know, Matt, what the future could hold. I'd be a liar if I didn't say that, I didn't think about it and have talked to some people that may want to partner up with me. But, to your point, it's been done, so what would come of that? Who knows? So,
Right.
um, but the other car made a lot of sense, being an Acura NSX, being like the official, I don't know, fighter jet car, being one of Gordon Murray's, inspirations when designing the McLaren F1. A lot of people don't know that. That's something that we're kind of proud about. And it fit the car. And so, right now I don't really know, but man, it looks good with the white on white and just kind of sitting there like that. So
Yeah, it
who
does. Looks
knows?
good. Looks
Yeah.
good. Have you done any modifications to the powertrain? I'm just curious because of the hybrid powertrain. Uh,
Yeah, there's
you
not a
know,
lot you could do to those cars.
yeah, there isn't too much, but
And that's the thing about them, is they're pretty locked down. Um, there's you can do the JB4, which I never did, and then you could do the K tuner. But other than that, it's, your downpipes, your exhaust, and whatever tune. Some of the guys throw methanol at it. I wouldn't do that.
yeah.
The car is way too expensive, and you blow that motor. I've heard quotes out there where it's upwards of $90,000 to replace the motor, and so
Yeah,
that's pretty
and
much a guaranteed total loss.
listen, I mean, looking at what Sammy just went through on his LaFerrari, when you start screwing around with the hybrid powertrain, and in this case his battery, I mean,
Hmm.
Ferrari's quote is $250,000 on a
Right,
LaFerrari battery. So
a lot of cars you can
you
get for $250,000.
yeah, right. Other than just a battery. Um, awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us up there. Goldberg got caught into something else. I want to talk about his cars as well and what happened at the auction over there, but we're going to save that for when he's back. I think it's better that he gets to get in and share that
Sure,
story. Um, you guys can find Jay. He's at hardparkingpod.com, and he's all over social media as well. follow his podcast, follow him on YouTube, and go in there, tell him how much you enjoyed him on the show, subscribe to his stuff, and enjoy more of my friend
Thanks,
Jhae.
Matt.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap things up. Until next time, keep the air and the spare in the bag and the wheel.